So over the past few months, I've been seeing a lot of videos like these. And as a longtime Pinterest user, I can't help but agree. Pinterest is on the decline. Recently, the platform has become increasingly overrun by ads and AI-generated content. This is super depressing because as a longtime user, I can attest to the fact that Pinterest for a lot of people has become the comfort platform. But with the platform becoming increasingly more overrun by content users don't want to see, it's becoming unusable. But how bad is it really? I mean, is it just a couple of ads here and there and the occasional AI post? Well, in this video, I'll be assessing just that and explaining how it's gotten here and why it's gotten to this point and some potential solutions. Let's actually assess. I went ahead and ran a little experiment with 3 user profiles. The first one being a new user profile, the second one being a medium-term user profile with a couple of pins, and the third one being a long-term user profile with a lot of pins. That's my actual personal one. For each account, I went ahead and assessed a 10-minute scroll of both the home feed and a search feed of different types of searches, all being the same keywords, and assessed how many ads and AI content pieces that I could identify in those search results. I wanted to see how much all these different user profiles are actually seeing ads and AI generated content. Here's what I found. So for a new user who just created their profile on the home feed, even if you've selected multiple different types of interests, you will have 0 discernible AI content and very little advertised content. When I was doing this assessment, it came out to almost 0% every time. And it's close to 1% of discernible AI generated content on their home feeds as well. Otherwise, it's all organic, real life content. When these new users are searching, about 5% of the content they're seeing in a search result on their page at a time is sponsored content. Somewhere between 0 and 5% is also AI generated content based on any search query. For both medium term and long term users, the stats are a lot different. For medium term users with several pins, the home feed is looking to like 50 to 60% of the screen at a time is sponsored content. That's really rough. I ran this several times because I was like, there's no way it is that high of a percentage of pins on your screen at a time that are ads. But that's the case. And the same thing was true for this medium term account in terms of AI content on their home feed. About 50% of it was AI generated. Now, I will say for this medium term account, I did pin 1 or 2 AI generated pieces I knew were AI, but I wanted to see how the algorithm will react, and it flooded it with tons of AI content. When searching on the medium term account, about 30% of the content was sponsored. When searching, somewhere between 30 and 65% of content was AI as well, with the average being about 50%. But it could range anywhere between 30 and 65, which is a lot considering the terms I was searching. They were all real life based things that you could easily have all organic content for. Long-term account, about 33% of it was sponsored on the homepage. Only about 5% on the long-term account was AI generated content, but on that account, I hadn't really pinned any AI generated things, or very, very few. It was not flooded with AI content that was discernible to me. Searching on the long-term account, about 30% of all the pins I was seeing were also sponsored. And about 5% of the content that I was seeing in the search results was AI. With all those numbers there, that you can see that's pretty bad. That's a lot of ads, AI, so much ads and AI. Not as much authentic content happening unless you are a brand new user. For everyone complaining about the ads and the AI overload, yeah, your complaints are valid and totally legit. It is overwhelming. If you are seeing roughly 15 pins per second and about 30% of them are ads, then in about 10 seconds, you would see 45 ads on average. Just in 10 seconds. 10 seconds. That is a lot of ads. Unless you're really trying to distinguish all that different types of content like I was when I was going through it, it's really easy to glaze over and not realize how much ads there actually are in every time you're looking at Pinterest, like on the screen. And there's no telling how much of that content that's left over is going to be any genuine content if it's not AI. If another 30% on top of those ads is AI generated content, that only leaves 30 to 40% of genuine content. which is not a lot, especially when we think about how long we're scrolling at a time and how much time we're sinking into that and how many ads we're seeing. It gets incredibly overwhelming with the numbers very quickly. Which brings up the question, why is the platform being flooded with ads and AI? Well, ads is really simple to answer. Pinterest, like every other major social media platform out there, primarily makes its money through ads. And Pinterest, up until relatively recently, has not been a profitable company, hence the uptick in ads to make them more and more profitable as users keep growing. Advertisers come to the platform and say, hey, we want to advertise this. And Pinterest says, okay, you give us that money and we'll make sure people see it. They can't guarantee a click-through rate, but they make sure it gets seen by users, and a lot of eyeballs looking over that many ads that can probably generate some numbers. All of which leads us to, though, why is AI still flooding Pinterest? Notice two things in this assessment. There is a good chunk of ads out there that are utilizing that AI generated content, and those AI generated content are also just pinned on Pinterest as regular pins and links out elsewhere. It's both sponsored content and organic content, if you can even call AI generated work organic. And Pinterest, as we know, for a long amount of time, has had a reputation with scams. So when these advertisers are using AI generated content to advertise their not real products, Pinterest doesn't really have a problem with it because they're still getting paid money. And on the organic side, if these businesses and platforms are overwhelming the platform with AI generated content that also leaks back to their own product or page or whatever the heck they're selling, they're still getting more money out of it. They're not incentivized to not do it. And with the low cost to generate any AI content and really put it all over the platform, people can do that. It doesn't have to be real or linked it back to anything real. It doesn't even have to be good. They can still be spamming and overwhelming the platform with whatever product they're trying to sell, which is what I find most of this AI generated slop is. I think this is all flooding the platform is the utilization of bots. I think a lot of these accounts are coming up with all these AI generated pieces and throwing them onto Pinterest are more or less tester accounts. These are accounts that become verified and to be sold out for whatever business wants to use them later to dump more of their own advertised content onto the platform. And this is a very low cost, low effort, easy way for scammers and other not good faith platforms to utilize Pinterest. A lot of it links back to low quality sites. Sites that themselves look like they are generated by AI or some sort of template, and they are flooding those sites with more and more AI content there. And of course, they're full of Google Ads. I've also noticed, because I use Firefox, a lot of these websites will have a ton of cookies that are trying to follow you around forever and get a lot of your data. I'm not saying that all of these low quality websites are scraping all of your data and then selling it, but I do think it is a very real possibility. And this is all so replicable now with AI coming out, not just in terms of digital visual AI, but how we're using AI in terms of bots and their capabilities and mashing those two things together, as well as seeing AI generated sites that are integrating Google Ads into it. So it just kind of generates a bunch of money, whether we're scamming people out of their views or we're scamming people out of their actual dollars and buying a fake product. Liking this analysis and deep dive into the product and design of all of Pinterest, then you should follow my newsletter down below called Creative Mess in Progress, where I go to deep dive into the details and behind the scenes of making this and my overall creative journey. But that brings to the question of, if this is all bad and crappy and scammy, why does Pinterest allow AI generated content to keep flooding the platform and letting bots run rampant? Like I said before, a lot of these AI generated posts I am seeing are also somewhat related to the accounts that are using sponsored content. Pinterest, through their own self-interest, would like to keep these people who are flooding money into the platform on as long as possible, even if they are doing nefarious things and making the platform kind of decay. Because if it's bringing in money, it's bringing in money. They're gonna let it keep happening. Additionally, from what I've noticed, that in my medium term experiment, the accounts that are pinning AI generated content get a lot more AI generated content on their feed. It's because users are genuinely pinning the AI content. Unless you know what you're looking for and can really assess an image, you might not know if it actually is AI. Some of it looks kind of real. It's not, it's fake. And if AI generated content is keeping users on the platform and keeping them pinning and therefore looking at more sponsored posts, then Pinterest is going to let it keep happening. Users keep engaging with AI content, so they don't really have any incentive to bump it down. And it seems as though, as I saw in some of the medium-term accounts that I tested, that once you start pinning any AI content, your feed gets flooded with a lot more AI content. And as accounts keep overwhelming the platform with more AI content, it becomes more and more readily available and more or less the kind of only option if your feed turns into that. It can become impossible to stop engaging with it. That doesn't make it good, it just makes the platform less usable and less authentic. The only way that I've seen around it is to simply not pin any AI generated content, or if you see that more is popping up on your feed, ignoring it entirely and only pinning organic content. And from what I've seen with the results of the algorithm, it knows what is AI content and what is organic content. Because if you start pinning a lot more organic content and only pinning that, ignoring all the AI stuff, then it's going to start feeding you more organic content, which tells us that Pinterest does know what content is organic and what content is AI generated. At least the algorithm has a pretty good idea. So all of this sucks. What do users do about it? As a user, you really only have 3 options. The first option you have is to keep using the platform and to not care. Just beware of scams, know that you're getting flooded by ads, and that there is a good chance that your feed is at some point going to get flooded with AI. The second option you have is to keep using the platform and be incredibly intentional about pinning as well as reporting any content on the platform. If there is content or users that you suspect are guilty of spam, then let Pinterest know, report them. You can also complain to Pinterest on their email forms and on their other social media platforms and let them know how unhappy you are. Encourage them to take action. Best option you have if you're unhappy with this, limit your usage of the platform and find an alternative. Your time is precious, and letting any platform intentionally scam you or overwhelm you with a credible amount of ads is not worth your time or energy. Your time and attention is precious, and letting any platform capitalize off of that time and attention while making money off of you without giving you an authentic, really top-notch experience doesn't deserve your time or attention. They're making money off of you, and if they're going to make money off of you, they ought to be making it worth your time. This is my stance because these businesses and platforms are making money off of you and they are treating you as an asset. And for the amount of money they are making off of you, it should be worth your time and be a genuinely good experience. And as a user, it's not all up to you. What could Pinterest do about all these problems? Because it really comes down to them. Pinterest as a company basically has 2 different options. Address the problem and make it better for users, or ignore the problem entirely and decay the platform even more. Unfortunately, the latter seems a lot more likely based on the trend we are seeing with social media platforms at the moment. However, if Pinterest was interested in improving the experience, here are some things they could do. Straight up, be more strict about letting scammers onto the platform. These scammers seem to be the biggest offending party, as well as taking the most advantage of Pinterest's current setup. Make the authentication process to becoming a seller or a sponsor more rigorous. Vet these people. Scammers being permitted on the platform has been an issue for years, and that doesn't exactly improve reputation or good business practices. And allowing these people to run rampant is causing the platform to decay. There's even a whole genre out there on the internet, on YouTube, on BuzzFeed about buying products from Pinterest and seeing how crappy they are. Because they're not real. These people are scamming people if they even get anything. Pinterest could crack down on this. This would result in less crappy ads, less AI ads, and overall probably less AI content with the bots no longer flooding the platform. The next thing they could do was make an AI filtering system or an AI tagging system. Let's face it, the algorithm already knows what content is likely AI and what isn't. It can tell, even if we can't, it can. And flooding the feed with AI-generated content as a whole doesn't please users, because eventually it does all start to look uncanny valley and nothing is real. If it's all basically fake, why do I want to pin that cupcake recipe to my food board because I know that recipe is impossible to ever even look like that? It's not genuine even if the recipe is even real. For all I know, the recipe that is linked out, it could also be fake and AI generated. There are some cases where AI generated content is useful, like say if you're setting up a D&D campaign and you want some visual development and you just want to grab whatever's off the internet. Casual fun things like that, but nothing worth flooding the whole platform with. Give users the chance to decide. Especially having a tagging system would give users the option as to if they want to have AI generated content, support that type of content, or see more like it. A lot of folks only want to see real stuff, and if they're okay with seeing AI generated stuff, be transparent about it. Come up with a transparency policy and be transparent about what is AI and what likely isn't. Let the users choose. My bet is that AI content would generally fall to the wayside as to what is favored compared to actual organic content. And if you let users see and decide, that's my bet as to how it will go. The next thing Pinterest could do is capitalize off of being the platform centered around authentic content, creativity, and expression. While the rest of the internet seems to be falling apart, Pinterest could serve as a safe haven. With the downfall that we're seeing of Meta and X/Twitter, Pinterest could be a safe space for people, therefore driving user engagement and driving more users to the platform. Pinterest could be the comfort place people want it to be while also making money. Tweak the algorithm towards more authentic content and I guarantee people will come. There's also plenty of opportunity for community building in terms of features that Pinterest has yet to implement or capitalize off of. There is a real chance for a deeper community if Pinterest just looks a little closer. And in that in-game scenario, Pinterest wouldn't have to rely on oversaturating all of its users with ads. There could be other ways. So yeah, to sum it all up, Pinterest really is on the decline, and that makes me really sad because I genuinely really do like Pinterest. I know a couple designers and stuff that work at Pinterest, and I'm really not blaming them. This is a higher up issue. This is an overall strategy issue and engineering problem, most likely a stakeholder issue. But there are ways out there that if Pinterest really did want to fix the problem that users are currently complaining about excessively, they could fix it. What do you guys think? Is Pinterest on the decline or am I blowing this all out of proportion? Are there any other issues with Pinterest that I missed outside of the overrun of ads and AI? Let me know down in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions. And if you like this deep dive into what's currently going on with Pinterest, you would probably like my evolution of Spotify Wrapped video here. You can watch it next and I will see you all in the next one. Bye!